So Kris, it looks like the floor is all yours. Please take the next 5-10 minutes if you'd like to. If it's an open conversation, if there's somebody in particular that you want to ask something to or just get to know. And if you don't know all of the co-hosts, this is a great time for introductions as well too. So floor is all yours.
So my one question to each of you would be, what is one thing that you have given some kind of energy to in the past and where you've ghosted yourself and you have not, given it the appropriate attention that it deserves to bring it to fruition? So what is it and what's holding you back?
So I'll start.
I guess. Oh, okay.
You got it? Look at this. It had to be one of us. We're the first speakers. Okay, so I would say I've known for years that I put too much pressure on myself to be the one that gets everything done, and so I've given a lot of energy to having to do everything. Like if I can't do it, it won't get done. And so that started a few years back where I started to understand that having supports in relationships or teammates in business or delegation and collaboration and things like that. But it all came from really a fear that if I let something drop, that my whole world was gonna stop, that it was gonna crash around me. And that if I didn't work harder, then it was on me. Like it was my problem and no one else's problem. And I'm not sure exactly what changed that, but maybe if I could pinpoint that, I could be introspective. That might actually help me think more about that, why I ghosted myself for so long on that. But I do know that I have started putting energy around building community that's supportive to me in all the areas of my life. And it's been like the best 4 or 5 years of my life, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So what's the one thing that is on your list of something you've wanted to do, but because you ghosted yourself, you haven't even started it? Or you started it and you didn't finish it?
I don't know what that one thing is. Nothing pops to mind. It's just the negative energy that I put in front of myself so that I couldn't even get to that point to ask myself that question,
Mm-hmm.
So I'll think about that.
Yeah, for me, it's a book. And so, and I've given so much mental energy to this. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. So I finally last week hired a book coach and have committed to myself to get it done, because I'm literally spending all of this time, thinking about it, how great it would be and this and that. And it's really a passion project for me. And so I finally was like, enough of this, because it's, I'll start it and I won't get it done. And that'll make me feel badly about it. Well, or I don't have time. All of that's just excuses and BS. Mm-hmm. So I finally had a, serious talk with myself and said, enough, cut the crap, and just commit to it, because clearly it's something that you've been thinking of for a long time, and it's time to get it done. So
I have a book on my list. It's on the list. I just don't know if it's the top of the list, but I did the same thing this year, as I put a 2019 goal for a book, and I already wrote a title, and so but a book coach is a great idea.
Yeah, awesome. Who else? Next victim.
Okay, I'm just gonna go so I can just get this out of the way, because this has been coming up a lot for me, actually. What are the things that well, I'm just gonna say I'm working on a project that requires a lot of introspection. And I've had to look at the things that I want to do before I die. And it's really funny because I feel like I've done all of the things that I want, all the big things that you think you would want to do. And it's all the little things are starting to come up now, right? I want to watch a thunderstorm. I want to lay in bed with my partner and listen to the rain come down. And I want to see sunrises and sunsets. There's no big massive thing that I want to do. And so it's really interesting. So I just want to talk about I guess the biggest thing, and so was quitting my job again, right? Because I went back to a corporate job because I was scared, and because I thought that I needed to, and I needed that security of the paycheck, and I needed this because I had been out on my own for a year. And so I put myself through that for a year, and just sort of like, and through that time I was like, I started to shift, and I could see myself working up the corporate ladder again. Like, this is fine. It's not so bad. I was just, and I started to get really comfortable. And so that's like a little over a month ago when I was like, no, I'm not doing this to myself again. Like, the longer that I stay here, the less of an impact I have, basically. And I'm just choosing comfort over growth. And so, so I quit. And now I've just been kind of like doing my thing ever since. But like, the project that I've been working on, anytime that I think like, man, I really want to do that. Like yesterday, I went to Hippie Hollow here in Austin, like, cause it's been on my list, but every time I come to Austin, I'm like, I'll do it next time. I've got a long life ahead of me. But like, now when I have those thoughts, I'm like, no, do it now. Like, you want to watch the thunderstorm roll in? Like, sit here and watch the thunderstorm roll in,
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. It's been really interesting.
I love that you are taking the time to think about those small moments, because they are so really that, there are a lot of large moments in life, but our life mostly is the small moments. And so if you can learn to live intentionally through those and appreciate them and find the gratitude and the beauty. And it makes me think of last weekend, I told somebody, instead of have a good weekend, I said, I hope you have a weekend full of bliss or ecstasy. Because you know what, at the end of the day, why should we just be settling for good? Like, have a freaking amazing weekend that, have something memorable happen to you. And it's really all you making that happen, right? And, when you said about the thunderstorm, I got caught in a rainstorm in Miami, which we have crazy rain in Florida. And everybody else was putting up their umbrellas and, hurrying. And I decided to walk without an agenda and just let those raindrops fall on my skin. And it was amazing. I could smell the rain, and just the feeling of like being in the moment, not having agenda, being connected to nature. It was so powerful. And I used that as an opening to a workshop that I was doing, and said, when was the last time you allowed yourself to walk in the rain without an agenda? And I had like one person out of 20 be able to tell a story about that. And so I think that that's really powerful when we can let ourselves do that. And we don't do it enough. So, thank you. All right.
I'll go. So, I think mine's kind of overarching. It's the fact that I know that I need to figure out what I want from my life, what I want to do, how I want to move forward. And every time I go to think about that, the fear sets in so deeply that I can't actually move forward with it, because if I really think about it, I think what I'm afraid of is the fact that where I am right now isn't where I want to be. And I'm going to have to change that if I actually admit it to myself that I'm not where I need to be or want to be.
Yeah.
And so I keep avoiding having that conversation with myself. And I've even talked to other people. I talked to Sonny and Jake one time, and they're like, okay, this is what you should do to kind of move forward and get yourself, thinking about that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Have I done it? No, because, it's that fear, and it's like, it's overwhelming and it's crippling. And so, yeah.
It can be, it absolutely can be. I think it's, visualizing like what that change would look like at its worst and at its best can also be very powerful. Mm-hmm. And usually so much of that we just make up. So the worst is all made up. It hasn't even happened yet. It's not real. And so knowing that, that's our powerful mind that's super creative and just trying to protect us. But like, again, you have choices here. And so even if something terrible were to happen, you're not a tree, you're not stuck, you can change that, right? And so that's where it becomes important to like know that you have choices. And change is not comfortable, but that, people always say that's where the magic happens. It truly is. It truly is. So
I love that. You're not a tree.
you're not, I mean, you're not stuck, right? So even if something unfortunate happens and is terrible, you can make another choice. But I think it's important to know that avoidance is a choice.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Good question.
Sonny, no? Okay. All right, I'll go. Oh my gosh. Therapy moment. Okay. Digging into the past. Let's go through the life of Chantel. So my biggest challenge, like the greatest weakness is that I've always, and greatest strength, right, is that I've always put everybody before me. I'm a big advocate for community, for family, for friends, for being that person behind the curtain so that I can shine light on whoever I'm with. And I've grown to realize that it's like killed my self-worth because I always put myself last. Every decision that I make, it's for everyone around me. It's never for myself. And it wasn't until I went through my diagnosis and that fight or flight, like, how much am I really worth? Is Chantel Soumis worth $50,000 in medical debt? Is it worth not having my son get any help for college? You know, and it was really that moment that, yeah, I think I could be worth that to be a mom for my son, you know? Yeah. So it's like trying to not ghost myself, trying to not put everybody else first, and finally think of who Chantel is, because I think I do deserve a chance at life. And that was me thinking about, you know, starting Stardust and really following my passion there and doing something for me for the first time in my life.
Yeah, I think that's a very common theme. I run a women's group, and most of us are in our mid-40s. There's a couple people that are younger and a couple that are older, but most of us are in this midlife, you know, stage. And that's so common, where we have put everybody else first. So our significant other, our kids, our career, our family, everybody else. And it, you know, it comes from a couple different places of, like, we feel guilty. We feel that it's selfish to put ourselves first, or we don't feel worthy. And none of those serve us. None of those. Because when you are able to be your best self and practicing self-forgiveness and self-compassion and self-love, that is when you can be your best self for everybody else. And so it really becomes not something that you should be feeling guilty about, but something that is a necessity to put yourself first. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It's easy to say, right? But it's so hard to practice what, you know, like I can tell myself that all the time, but
yeah. A friend of mine, we talk about the power of no, and he always says, no is a complete sentence. It requires no further explanation. So be comfortable learning to say no. But that is a skill in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
They love that. I'm like, right, no, nope. No. You know, I had to learn to say that with my kids got into travel lacrosse and swim team that was travel and volleyball travel, and I was working for corporate America, and you know, so working crazy hours, and then every weekend, almost every hour was with this travel stuff. And I finally said, no, I am not doing it anymore, because it is depleting my soul. I cannot, like, I love you and I support you, but I will not do this. This is not a way of living. That may be for other people, but it's not for me. And so, you know, that felt very selfish and horrible. And I was so happy after I said no. It was this exercise that was like, you know what, this is hard to do at the time, but people will have to learn to be okay with it. And we are now. I mean, our family is okay. You know, we're spending actually time together instead of like fly by night, like, oh, see you later. You know, it was divide and conquer. No, that doesn't work for me.
No.
No.
N-O, 2 letters. It's not that hard.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Sonny, I think it's you.
I thought I went first.
No, you did not. Good try.
Yeah, ghosting myself. So first of all, Kris, for you and Jake, for the book, I actually have come across quite a few contacts when you get to that point where if you want some introductions to some of the folks I've had access to or been introduced to, let me know. I'll put you in touch with the same people.
I will.
Well, because for me, my goal is to write a book by the end of the year, but I'm not saying I'm unique, but my book is a children's book, which most people on the platform aren't doing. So most of them are like, the self-help or the adversity or like, business type. So I've come across great contacts, but they're just like, we don't do kids books. So thanks for trying.
Okay. I'll have to share some of my contacts with you then too.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Wonderful. Yeah. So where I've ghosted myself, it's amazing because I think, Kris, when you and I first met, right, the corporate America story, and every single one of the answers that each one of them has done, I want to take a piece of each one of them because it applies to me. Where I feel now that I'm out of corporate America, I've probably been ghosting my life, parts of my life throughout that experience, and they've all been great experiences. But now that I'm fully 2 feet into the deep end of the pool in entrepreneurship with Jake, and then of course this group right here, which we're looking for the future and visions for the show. I'm taking what I didn't do for myself and I'm applying it to and along with the people that I'm learning to grow and trust and develop relationships with. But what I've realized now is that I'm doing so much more time and energy with these awesome, not just this group here, but just people on the digital platform, that your story about lacrosse and your family, I'm missing out on the real world thing. So for example, just this past weekend, my wife made this comment to me. She said, how come these people know you better than I know you? And I had to stop for a second and really think about that. And I was like, wow, like that's huge. Cause I've been married for 9 years. And at the beginning of those 9 years, I've always been a private person, which if you saw me on LinkedIn, you had no idea that I don't share anything about my life. I share almost everything about and being a dad and creating this show with all of these other wonderful people. So you wouldn't know that. And I had to stop and really, and I've been thinking about this for some time, but she made that comment. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I said, I have to pay more attention to like the thunderstorms, right? Those small moments that are around me, and make sure that I'm giving the proper time to the people that are nearest to me as well, because those are the people that we either treat the best or we treat the worst, because they're the ones that are closest to us, right? So they get the best and the worst of us, no doubt about it. And so what I'm trying to not walk down the path of ghosting myself is to make sure I'm paying attention to the little things that are applicable to me. So for instance, I shut down at a certain point throughout the evening where our family, when my wife if she's not at work, where we're at home, we're sitting on the couch and we're just hanging out with or we flip on the music and we're dancing around because he's a heck of a dancer. Or, he pulls out his guitar and he's playing and we're just sitting there just enjoying that moment. One thing that we do a lot more now is we'll grab a cup of coffee. And so the first part of the morning is literally just having a cup of coffee. We might be in different rooms, but doing that and then showing our son that it's okay for us to be able to do it. Because he's a pretty intuitive little kid. He's not 3 yet, but he goes, Daddy, he's like, are you talking to mommy nicely? And I'm like, wow. Like, I guess for me now, instead of being like, yeah, of course I am. Now it's like, okay, well, what did I say that made him think that? So I'm really trying to take right eyes of the child. So truth comes right from their mouths. And I'm trying to take that and make sure that I'm not applying, like what Chantel said, I'm not applying just for other people, but I'm applying what I need to do for myself to make that communication or those enjoyable moments more enjoyable. So the answer to your question is that I'm starting to recognize faster if I'm doing something and I'm trying to do something about it before it ever compounds, because life is way too short, right? Why live that mediocrity life? Like live for those little moments and and live for the ones that we want to live for.
It makes me think of Brene Brown and her book, Daring Greatly. And she talks about one of the worst ways that we avoid being vulnerable is where we disengage with those closest to us. And so sometimes it's easier, you know, to share things with people that don't know us well. And we, you know, really remove ourselves from the quality interactions with those who love us the most, and how harmful that can be. And so recognizing that if, you know, you start to get on that path of, you know, what's triggering that and how to fix it before it becomes something that's, you know, irreparable damage that you can't change.
It's the tougher conversation, right? It's the one, like the easy one is, we'll talk to people who don't know me and have any vested interest in my future. Like I can just say it and they don't judge me for it, versus have that, I think Katie said this, have the introspective, right? Have that one that really challenges you to look at what are you doing, if it's right, wrong, anything in between, but look inward and have that tougher conversation.
Yeah. Yep. I love it.
So, well, Kris, thank you once again on behalf of all the co-hosts for being a guest on the UnLearn show. And if you're not connected with some of us,
I think I'm connected with everybody, I think.
Beautiful.
Although sometimes I'm like, feel like I, you know, correspond with people all the time, and then we'll be like, oh, we thought we were connected and we're not. But I think I am. Yeah. I'll look again. But
well, if you're not, I'm sure some of us will reach out to you as well. But the other thing also, and you can, what we're going to be trying new with some of our guests is we would love for you to have the opportunity to, when your episode goes live, we'll let you know about it before. We would love for you to share it on your own profile at some point, if you'd like to. So for instance,
definitely.
It could be your own video. It could be your own blog post. You don't have to use anything of ours, but each one of us typically tries to post something once an episode launches to give the guest, you know, the proper share throughout the community. What we're going to start asking our guests to do is, you know, if it's a Tuesday or Wednesday, like we'll work that out with you, but we want you to be able to share that with your network also, so that we can also comment and talk about the great show that you had with us.
Yeah, would love to. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Kris. Well, Kris, thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Appreciate it.